Welcome to Something About Sleep. We hope you'll let our stories guide you to a nice, peaceful slumber as you learn about history and what it was like to be a human in times long since past. Now, I need to get to sleep, and if you're watching this video, chances are you do too. So, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, sir. On tonight's episode, we will explore everyday life in a Japanese mountain village during the Edo period. So join me here by the fire and rest your weary eyes as I tell you a tale from long, long ago. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to wake before sunrise in a small mountain village during the Edo period of Japan, long before electric light, long before railways, and long before the soft glow of a screen could reach into the night? Perhaps the first thing you would notice would not be a person at all. It might be the sound of water, a stream moving somewhere below the houses, a narrow current slipping over smooth stones, carrying the cold of the mountain down toward the fields. Then perhaps the sound of a rooster, not loud enough to break the quiet, only enough to remind the valley that morning has begun. Above you, the sky would still be pale and unfinished. The ridges of the mountains would stand in layers of blue and grey. Mist would gather between the cedars, and the first smoke of the day would begin to lift from the roofs of the village. This is the world we're stepping into tonight. Not the world of a great castle town, and not the crowded avenues of Edo with its merchants, theatre houses, bridges and riverboats. Tonight we're leaving the famous cities behind. We're walking slowly along a damp mountain path, past a shrine gate half hidden in moss, past terraced fields that catch the morning light, and into a small rural settlement where everyday life moves by the rhythm of water, wood, soil, weather, custom, and fire. The Edo period lasted from the early 17th century until the second half of the 19th century. It was a long age in Japanese history, shaped by the Tokugawa shogunate, by powerful domains, by a carefully ordered society, and by many local differences. It is often remembered for samurai, merchants, woodblock prints, travellers on the highways, tea houses, poets, craftsmen, and the growing city of Edo itself. But for most people, life was not lived under painted theatre banners or beside the great bridges of the capital. Life was lived in villages, in rice fields, on forest paths, in houses smelling of smoke and straw, beside streams that had to be kept clear, and beneath mountains that seemed to hold the village in place. A mountain village during the Edo period would not have been one single thing everywhere. The details change from province to province, and sometimes from one valley to the next. Some villages had more rice land. Some relied heavily on dry fields, millet, buckwheat, mulberry, hemp, timber, charcoal or small crafts. Some were close enough to a post road to see travellers pass often. Others were reached only by narrow paths, pack horses, and long walks over steep ground. So the village we will imagine tonight is a careful composite, a historically grounded place inspired by mountain communities of early modern Japan, especially those in central and inland regions where farms, forests, roads, shrines and household labour were woven tightly together. Let us imagine a village that does not appear on a grand map in large letters. Its name would be known to the people who lived there, to nearby market towns, to tax officials, to priests, to peddlers, and to travellers who took the mountain road in fair weather. To the wider world it would be one small settlement among many, but to the families who lived there it would be the whole shape of life, the place where children learned the path to the spring, where elders remembered old boundaries, where the same trees were watched from season to season, and where every sound had a meaning. Before we go any farther, if you're listening while settling in for the night, you're warmly invited to leave a quiet comment saying where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. There is something comforting about imagining people in different places, under different skies, arriving together at the same slow story. And if you enjoy calm, long-form history made for rest, you can like the video and subscribe for more gentle journeys into the past. But for now, there is no hurry. You can let the day fall away. You can let the room around you soften. We're only at the edge of the mountains. The path ahead is narrow, but it is not difficult if we walk slowly. On one side, the hillside rises into forest. On the other, the land falls away into a valley where roofs sit close together. They are wooden houses, many with thick thatch or weathered shingles, built not to impress the world but to survive wind, snow, damp summers, and long use. A few roofs bend under the weight of age. A few have been repaired with newer bundles of grass or boards cut from the mountainside. In the dim light, they seem almost like part of the earth itself. The village has not yet fully awakened. A dog lifts its head and lowers it again. Somewhere inside a house, someone stirs the ashes of the hearth. A few sparks glow, then deepen, and a thin line of smoke begins to climb into the rafters. Soon there will be water to carry, grain to prepare, tools to set in order, fields to visit, forest work to plan, and obligations that cannot be forgotten. But in this first moment, before the day gathers weight, the village is suspended between sleep and labour. Tonight, we will move through that day gently. We will step inside the house and feel the warmth of the irori, the sunken hearth. We will walk out to the terraced fields where water reflects the sky. We will follow a path into the forest where firewood, leaves, mushrooms, and mountain plants are gathered according to habit and local rule. We will sit at a quiet table, visit the shrine beneath the trees, listen for news on the road, and watch the year turn from spring rain to winter snow. There will be no need for a great battle, no sudden catastrophe, and no sharp lesson forced upon the past. The interest is in the ordinary details, the way a ladle rests beside a water jar, the way smoke darkens roof beams, the way villagers share responsibility for a channel of water, the way a festival lantern glows in evening mist, the way a child learns the world by following the footsteps of older hands, and perhaps the quiet mystery is this: how a life that could be hard, modest, and full of duty could also be full of texture. How a small place, nearly forgotten by the large movements of history, could contain so many rhythms. How the ordinary act of waking, cooking, mending, planting, gathering, praying and sleeping could leave behind, across centuries, a feeling we can still almost enter. So let us begin above the roofs, where the first light has just touched the mountain ridge. Let the mist rest in the cedars. Let the stream speak softly below. And let us step into a Japanese mountain village during the Edo period, slowly, as if we are arriving before anyone has noticed. From the slope above the settlement, the village looks smaller than it feels from within. The houses are gathered together where the land allows them to gather, close to water but not so low that spring floods would easily reach them. Beyond them, the fields climb in uneven steps. Some are paddies, carefully levelled and bounded by low earthen ridges. Others are dry plots on higher ground, where grains, beans, vegetables, hemp, buckwheat or mulberry might grow depending on the region, soil, and needs of the household. Above all of it rises the forest. A mountain village was never only a collection of houses. It was a landscape of use and memory. People knew which channel carried water to which field, which path became dangerous after heavy rain, which trees had been cut too recently, which slopes yielded mushrooms after damp weather, which patch of grass could be used for thatch, and which shrine path should be swept before a festival. Boundaries mattered, rights mattered, custom mattered. The village was a community, but it was also an administrative unit, a place responsible for taxes, order, repairs, records, and shared obligations. In the wider system of the Edo period, Villages were linked to domains and to the shogunate through layers of authority. The exact arrangement depended on whether land was under a daimyo, a shogunal official, a temple, a shrine, or some other form of control. But for ordinary villagers, authority often appeared most directly through local officers and household responsibilities. A village might have a headman, called nanushi in some regions, shoya in others, or kimoiri elsewhere. There might also be group leaders and farmer representatives. Such terms varied, and the offices changed in importance from place to place, but the general idea is clear enough. The village was expected to manage much of its own daily order, while also answering upward to those who claimed its tax and service obligations. This does not mean that villagers lived every moment under the eye of officials. Most of daily life was not a scene of command. It was work, it was habit, it was local negotiation. A broken irrigation gate had to be repaired because the seedlings needed water, not simply because a law demanded it. A path had to be cleared because someone had to take goods to market. A roof had to be mended because winter would come whether records were kept well or poorly. Yet behind these practical tasks was the awareness that the village stood together in responsibility. If a harvest was poor, if a tax quota was difficult, if a boundary dispute arose, if a fire threatened the houses, the problem did not belong only to one person. In many parts of Edo Japan, villages were tied to annual taxes, often calculated in terms of rice productivity, even when the real local economy was more varied. The famous unit of koku, associated with rice, shaped the language of wealth and obligation. But mountain reality could be more complicated than a simple image of endless rice paddies. A high valley might not produce enough rice to define all of life. A household might rely on barley, millet, buckwheat noodles, beans, radish, wild greens, chestnuts, or goods made for exchange. Rice could be tax, food, status, offering, and aspiration all at once. It might appear at ordinary meals in mixed form or on special occasions in greater purity, depending on means and season. The village we are imagining is connected to the outside world, but not swallowed by it. Perhaps a branch road lies below, leading eventually toward a post town on a larger highway. The Nakasendo, the inland road between Edo and Kyoto, passed through mountain country and supported famous post towns, inns, pack horse traffic, and travellers of many sorts. Our village does not need to stand directly on that road. It may be a little above it, reached by a side path, but its people would know the road exists. They would know that news travels along it. Salt, paper, tea, medicine, metal goods, cloth, and rumours move along it. A son might leave for seasonal work. A peddler might climb up with small wares. A monk might pass through. A pilgrim might ask for directions. Someone returning from a market town might bring stories that sound large and distant beside the evening hearth. Still, the mountains slow everything. News that races through a city arrives here softened and delayed. A change in the domain may first appear as a notice read by the headman. A new fashion in Edo may become only a scrap of cloth seen at market, a pattern on a cheap print, a song half remembered by a traveller. The village belongs to the same historical period as the great cities, but it feels as if it is listening from behind a screen of trees. The geography shapes character. Paths are not straight because the land is not straight. Fields must be fitted where they can be fitted. A house is turned slightly to catch the sun, avoid wind, or face the workyard. A storehouse is raised or set apart to protect what can be protected. A shrine sits where older memory gathers, near a grove, a spring, a slope, or a stone that has long been treated with attention. In a flatter village, one might see the horizon open wide. Here, the horizon is broken into ridges. The sky appears in portions, a strip above the roofs, a bright square reflected in water, a high opening between dark branches. The forest is not empty background. It is the village's second field. It gives fuel, leaves for compost, timber for repair, bamboo, grasses, vines, nuts, mushrooms, and sometimes charcoal or other goods. But it must be used with care. If everyone cut freely, the slope could be damaged, fuel would vanish, and water might run differently. Villagers often had customs and restrictions around common mountains and shared resources. A person did not simply wander wherever he wished and take whatever he wanted. The mountain had its own order, held in memory, in argument, in documents, and in the knowledge of elders. The stream is equally important. It is beautiful, yes, but more than beautiful. It is drinking water, washing water, irrigation water, and sound. In spring, when fields are prepared, people watch it closely. In summer, when channels must be managed, its level matters. In winter, ice can make its stones treacherous. Children learn early where to step and where not to step. Older people know from the sound of the current whether rain has been heavier higher up the slope. If we were to stand by the stream at dawn, we might see a woman lowering a bucket, a young person carrying a yoke, or a man pausing to examine the edge of a channel before heading toward the fields. No one is performing history for us. They are only beginning their day. Yet in these small gestures an entire world is present. Water rights, household duty, gendered labour, village cooperation, mountain ecology, and the quiet persistence of a life carried forward by repetition. The Edo period is sometimes described as peaceful compared with the centuries of warfare that came before it. That is broadly true in the sense that the Tokugawa order brought long internal stability. But peace did not make life effortless. It made other forms of endurance visible. Villagers endured weather, taxation, crop failure, illness, the difficulty of travel, the constant need to maintain fields and tools, and the pressure of belonging to a community where reputation mattered. They were not merely passive figures in a painted landscape. They made decisions, negotiated obligations, preserved customs, adapted to markets, raised families, and found meaning in routines that outsiders might overlook. So when we enter this village, we should not imagine it as a simple dream of old Japan, polished smooth and free of strain. It is quieter than the city, but not empty. It is beautiful, but not decorative. It is modest, but not dull. It is a place where daily life has weight. The weight of water in a bucket, straw on a roof, snow on a path, rice in a tax measure, firewood on the back, and a sleeping child carried from the hearth to bedding at the end of the night. Now the sun has risen a little higher. Mist begins to thin above the lower fields. The edges of the roofs are clearer. Smoke rises from more than one house. From above, the village seems still. But inside the houses, the first movements of morning have begun. To understand the village, it helps to begin with a house. Not the largest house, perhaps, and not the poorest. Let us step toward a farmhouse that has stood for generations, repaired many times, altered in small ways, and darkened by winters of smoke. Its roof is thick and sloping. In some mountain regions, roofs were made steep to shed rain or snow, while in other places thatch, shingles, bark, or wooden boards might be used according to local materials and wealth. The house is not separate from the work of the farm. It is a shelter, a workshop, a storehouse, a kitchen, a family space, and a place where animals or tools might be kept nearby depending on the region and household. The entrance is low and practical. Beside it, there may be straw rain capes, bundles of rope, wooden clogs, sandals, baskets, a hoe, a sickle, or a carrying frame. Mud dries on the edges of tools. A woven hat hangs from a peg. Nothing in this doorway is purely decorative. Objects wait to be used again. They have the quiet dignity of things handled every day. Inside, the first space underfoot is often the doma, an earthen-floored work area. The word brings with it the feeling of packed earth, coolness, and utility. Here one can stand with muddy feet. Here grain might be handled, tools repaired, firewood stacked, water jars kept, and cooking work begun. The doma belongs partly to the outside and partly to the inside. It is the threshold where weather enters the house and is made useful. Raised above the earth floor are the living areas. The exact floor plan varies, but many traditional farmhouses included a larger room for eating, gathering, and everyday life, with other rooms for sleeping, storage, or guests depending on status and local custom. Mats might cover part of the floor. Wooden boards might be smooth from long use. Sliding doors and partitions could alter the feeling of space. In the morning, the interior may seem dim because the house is built for seasons, not for brightness alone. Light enters through shutters, paper screens, doorways, and smoke gaps. It pulls softly rather than flooding the rooms. At the centre of the feeling of the house is the irori, the sunken hearth. Imagine a square or rectangular pit set into the floor, lined or filled so that a small fire can burn safely within ash. Above it hangs an adjustable hook, the jizaikagi, from which a kettle or pot may be suspended. The hook can be raised or lowered depending on the heat needed. A fish-shaped lever is sometimes seen in later preserved examples, though details vary. Around the hearth, people sit, eat, warm themselves, speak, mend, and wait out long evenings. The irori is warmth, but not only warmth, it is time. In the morning, embers are coaxed awake. At midday, a pot may simmer. At night, the fire lowers as voices become quieter. Smoke rises without a chimney in many older houses, finding its way into the roof space and through the thatch or openings above. To modern eyes, this might seem uncomfortable, and it could be. Smoke could sting eyes and darken the air, but it also helped preserve timber, dry the roof structure, and discourage insects in thatch. The beams above the hearth grew dark, almost black, over years of cooking and winter fires. If you looked up, you would see not just architecture but the memory of many meals. A house like this has its own smell. There is straw, smoke, damp wood, stored grain, miso, pickled vegetables, old cloth, ash, and mountain air carried in by anyone who enters. On rainy days, wet sandals and rain capes add their own scent. In winter, the smell of smoke deepens. In summer, open doors bring in grass, insects, and the green dampness of the valley. The house is quieter than a modern home, yet it is full of sound. The kettle lid clicks faintly. Firewood shifts. A ladle touches a pot. Someone steps from earth floor to raised floor. A screen slides. A child turns in bedding. A rooster calls outside. From another house, a voice carries for a moment, then disappears. In the sleeping rooms, bedding is folded and put away during the day if space is needed. Storage is important because the seasons must be survived. There may be baskets of dried foods, bundles of cloth, spare straw, tools wrapped in cloth, seeds carefully kept, and goods intended for tax, trade, or ceremony. Every object has a place because a small house with many tasks cannot afford much disorder. The guest room, if the household has one, may be cleaner, more formal, and less used. It reflects the household's place in the village. A headman's house might be larger and more prepared to receive officials, hold meetings, store documents, or host travellers of some importance. A smaller household would have less separation between work and living, less surplus, and fewer objects that were not needed immediately. Even within one village, houses could show difference in land, wealth, age of family line, skill, and obligation. The roof deserves its own quiet attention. A thatched roof is not simply placed and forgotten. It must be maintained, patched, and eventually replaced. Grass for thatch must be cut, dried, bundled, and stored. Re-roofing can require communal work. People climb, tie, trim, lift, and pass materials hand to hand. In winter, snow settles on the roof and changes the house's sound. Rain makes a soft, dense tapping. Wind combs the edges. Birds sometimes search the eaves. The roof is a landscape above the family. Near the house may be a small garden plot. Radishes, greens, beans, herbs or other vegetables can grow close by, depending on season. A persimmon tree might stand near the lane, its fruit bright in autumn and almost lantern-like after leaves have fallen. There may be a small shed, a storehouse, a stable, a drying rack, or a place where firewood is stacked under cover. If silkworms are raised in the region, part of the house might be adapted for trays and mulberry leaves at the right season. If paper, charcoal, or other local crafts matter, the house carries those traces as well. The interior arrangement is social as well as practical. People do not sit randomly. The place nearest or farthest from the hearth, the guest's place, the household head's place, the place for children, workers, or women of the house. These could follow custom. We should not pretend the rules were identical everywhere, but seating and household order mattered. The hearth gathered people, and in gathering them, it also quietly reminded them of their roles. Yet the house is not only a place of rules, it is a place of small tenderness. A child warms cold hands near the ash. An elder is given the warmer position. Someone saves a chestnut from the fire for another person. A wet sleeve is hung where it can dry. A cracked bowl is kept because it is still useful. A bundle of firewood is brought in before dark because the night will be cold. If you listen carefully in such a house, you can hear the village beyond it, the stream below, a neighbour calling, a tool striking stone, the far bark of a dog, a bell from the temple or shrine area depending on the hour and place. Houses are private but not sealed. Thin walls, shared paths and communal duties mean that the village passes through the house in sound and expectation. Now, beside the hearth, the day has begun to gather itself. Ashes stirred. A small flame steadies. Someone reaches for a pot. Outside, the valley light has turned from grey to pale gold. The house, which was a shadow a few moments ago, becomes a world of surfaces. Wood grain, woven straw, polished handles, paper screens, dark beams, folded cloth, and steam. Before anyone steps into the fields, the day must first be made inside. Morning in the farmhouse does not arrive all at once. It comes in tasks. The first person awake may not speak. There is no need. The body knows where to go. A hand reaches for the hearth tools. Ashes open gently to find the hidden warmth beneath. If a coal has lasted through the night, the morning begins with gratitude that is practical rather than spoken. If not, fire must be made again. Kindling is placed carefully. Breath moves toward the ash. A faint glow becomes a line of orange, then a small flame. The room brightens less from the sun than from the fire. In the raised living area, bedding is still gathered in soft shapes. A child sleeps with one arm outside the cover. An older person shifts but does not yet rise. The house is cold at the edges, especially in winter or early spring. The hearth creates a small circle of warmth in a larger darkness. Water is needed early. Someone takes a bucket or wooden pail and steps into the dawn. The ground outside is damp. In cold months the air touches the face sharply. In summer it is already soft and humid. The path to the water source is one of the first paths a child learns, and in a village like this the sound of water is as familiar as a family voice. The bucket is lowered. The water rises clear, carrying the chill of stone. On the way back, the weight pulls against the shoulders or hands. Water has a sound when carried, a hollow shifting inside wood. Inside, grain is prepared. It might be rice, but it might not be pure white rice, and it might not be rice at all for an ordinary meal. In a mountain village, depending on the household and season, breakfast could involve mixed grains, barley, millet, buckwheat, or leftovers warmed from the previous day. Miso soup may be made with vegetables, greens, tofu when available, or whatever the season provides. Pickles bring salt and brightness. Tea may be prepared if the household has it. The meal is simple, but simple does not mean careless. Every grain represents labour already spent. As the pot warms, the house wakes. A sliding door opens. Someone coughs softly. A child is told to fold bedding. The elder near the hearth receives the first warmth. The smell of smoke and soup begins to settle into the morning. Outside, more houses show signs of life. Smoke threads rise from roofs. Roosters call from different parts of the village, not together but in loose conversation. A dog shakes itself beside a doorway. A neighbour carries something wrapped in cloth. The first words of the day may be practical. Is the weather clear? Did the rain stop? Is the channel flowing? Will the road be passable? Did the cow or horse, if the household keeps one, feed well? Has the baby slept? Are the tools ready? In a world where work follows daylight, morning talk does not need ornament. Yet in its quiet way, it is intimate. People begin the day by checking the same small realities that hold them together. In spring, dawn may carry the smell of wet earth and new shoots. There is urgency in a soft form. Seedlings, channels, and fields require attention. In early summer, the morning is full of birds and the damp promise of heat. In high summer, people may rise especially early to work before the sun becomes strong. In autumn, the air is clearer and the thought of harvest sits in every movement. In winter, dawn is slow, and snow on the roof may make the whole house feel wrapped in cloth. A mountain village measures weather closely. A cloud over the ridge may matter. A wind from one direction may mean rain. A silence in the insects may be noticed. Older villagers often carry weather knowledge built from long repetition. They may not always be right, but their guesses are grounded in years of watching the same slopes. A younger person might glance toward an elder before deciding what to carry or how far to go. Breakfast is taken without ceremony, unless the household's customs make it so. Bowls are held close, steam rises. The hearth gives enough heat to soften the cold, but not enough to erase it. People eat what must sustain them. The taste is plain. Grain, miso, salt, greens, pickles, perhaps a little dried fish or mountain food if there is some. White rice, when present in a poor or modest household, may be mixed, saved, stretched, or treated with care. In wealthier homes it might appear more often. The differences are quiet but real. After eating, the day separates the household. One person may go to the fields. Another may tend the cooking and cleaning. Another may carry something to a neighbour, take care of children, look after animals, or prepare for forest work. A young person may be sent to deliver a message. An older child may accompany an adult and learn by watching. In a small farming household, childhood is not empty leisure, but neither is it only burden. It is woven into the work of the house. A child learns the world by holding a basket, following a path, listening to instructions and being corrected in small ways. Tools are checked near the doorway. A hoe, a sickle, a rake, a wooden mallet, a basket, a rope, a carrying frame. The tools are not new. Handles have been worn smooth. Blades are sharpened and repaired. A broken tool can change the day, so maintenance is part of survival. Someone may pause to tie a sandal, adjust a straw hat, wrap cloth around the legs, or lift a bundle onto the back. There is a moment, just before leaving, when the house and the outside meet. From the raised floor, one steps down into the doma. From the doma, one steps into the yard. The body lowers through levels, warm room, cool earth, open air. The mountains are now visible. The upper slopes still hold mist, but the fields below are beginning to shine. In the lane, villagers pass one another. Greetings are short. Everyone knows where everyone is likely going. A person carrying a hoe at this hour is not a mystery. A person carrying a basket toward the forest has a different day ahead. A headman or village officer might be thinking not only of his own fields, but of a meeting, a document, a tax matter, or a message from outside. A younger farmer might be thinking of water levels. A mother might be thinking of food stores and cloth repair. An elder might be thinking of the season as compared with seasons long past. The village lane is narrow, packed by feet and weather. It may pass between houses, along a small channel, past a storehouse, and toward the fields. Chickens scratch near a wall. Persimmon branches lean above a roof. A stone marker stands at a turning. The ground is uneven, known by memory. At night, one could walk it almost by feel. Morning is not dramatic. That is why it can tell us so much. In the great stories of history, dawn often belongs to armies, travellers, or kings. Here, dawn belongs to people who must keep water moving, food cooking, tools mended, and relationships steady. The work is ordinary, and ordinary work is the foundation on which the rest of the Edo world rests. As the sun rises over the ridge, the house behind us grows smaller. The hearth continues to glow. A pot may remain near the fire. Someone inside sweeps the floor. Someone outside calls to a neighbour. Down in the terraces the fields wait, reflecting a brightening sky. The fields of a mountain village are a lesson in patience. They do not spread in broad, easy plains. They cling to the shape of the land. Some are small enough that a person could cross them in a few steps. Some curve around stones or follow the bend of a slope. Low ridges hold water where water is needed. Channels run from stream to field, from upper field to lower field, through gates, notches, stones and banks repaired by hand. From above, the terraces look almost natural, as if the mountain itself had decided to make steps. But every level represents human work repeated over years. Water is the quiet master of the rice field. To grow rice in paddies, water must be guided, shared and watched. Too much can damage the field. Too little can leave seedlings struggling. In a mountain village, water may come from a stream fed by snowmelt, spring rain, or forested slopes. It may arrive cold. It may change quickly after storms. It may carry silt, leaves, stones, or branches that must be cleared. The channel is not an object built once and forgotten. It is a living responsibility. Before planting, the paddy must be prepared. The soil is turned and softened. Banks are repaired. Water is let in and adjusted. If animals are available for ploughing in a region, they may be used. In other situations, human labour does much of the work. Feet sink into mud. Hands carry seedlings. Backs bend. The body learns the angle of the field. The sound of work is low. Water moving, mud sucking at feet, voices calling short instructions, frogs disturbed from the edges. Rice planting has often been remembered as one of the most vivid moments of rural life. Seedlings are placed in rows, and in some places songs help keep rhythm. Whether sung loudly, quietly, or not at all, the work requires coordination. A person looks down for a long time, seeing not the grand landscape but water, mud, hand, green shoot, water, mud, hand, green shoot. The field reflects clouds, faces, sleeves and mountains upside down. Yet rice is only one part of the story. In a mountain village, dry fields could be just as important. Buckwheat might be planted where rice would not thrive. Millet and barley might support everyday meals. Soybeans could become miso or other foods. Radishes, greens, gourds and other vegetables filled seasonal needs. Mulberry might feed silkworms in households or regions involved in sericulture. Hemp or other fibres might be grown for cloth and rope. The exact combination depended on altitude, climate, soil, domain policy, market access, and household skill. A viewer from the modern world may imagine that old farming was timeless, as if people simply repeated what their ancestors had done without thought. But Edo-period villagers were practical observers. They knew which field dried quickly, which one held water too long, which seed did better in a cool spring, which slope lost soil in heavy rain, which household had enough hands to help with a task, and which neighbour might need assistance because illness or age had thinned the family labour. Farming was memory, but memory applied to changing conditions. The tax system added another layer. In many villages, annual taxes were tied to assessments of land productivity, often expressed through rice-based measures, even though actual life included many crops and local complexities. A village might be responsible as a unit for delivering what was required. This made the harvest not only a household concern but a communal one. Records mattered, measurements mattered. So did negotiation, reputation, and the ability of local officers to speak for the village. But in the field itself, such matters are not always spoken. A person weeding a paddy in summer may think only of the weeds, the insects, the heat, and the hope that the plants remain strong. Summer weeding is slow and demanding. Water warms under the sun, dragonflies move over the surface, frogs jump from ridges. The mountains, which looked blue and distant in spring, become heavy with green. The air may be thick enough to feel like cloth. During the rainy season, the village watches the sky. Rain is needed, but not all rain is welcome in the same way. A steady rain can feed fields and streams. A hard mountain storm can break banks, fill channels with debris, or send too much water down at once. Villagers repair what water damages because there is no other choice. A broken channel means a field dries, and a dry field means future hunger or difficulty. Maintenance is a form of hope practiced with a hoe. The edges of fields are full of life. Children may search for small creatures. Birds step through shallow water. Grasses grow along banks and must be cut. Wild plants appear, some useful, some only trouble. The paddy is cultivated, but it is not sterile. It belongs to an ecology of insects, birds, frogs, people, water, and mountain weather. At midday, if work allows, people rest. Shade matters. A straw hat is lowered over the eyes. A simple meal is eaten in the field or back at the house, depending on distance and task. Tea, water, cold grains, pickles, or whatever has been prepared may be shared. Conversation is practical. The condition of seedlings, a neighbour's field, a rumour from the road, a child's behaviour, a coming festival, the need to repair a tool. There are quieter tasks as well. Seed selection, drying, threshing, winnowing, bundling, storing. These activities happen at different times of the year, sometimes in yards, sometimes under eaves, sometimes in shared spaces. The sound of threshing in autumn is distinct from the sound of planting in a spring. Harvest changes the village's music. Instead of water and frogs, there is straw, grain, wooden tools, and voices measuring what the year has given. Autumn brings both relief and calculation. Bundles of rice or other crops dry in the sun. Persimmons glow near the houses. Smoke carries differently in clearer air. Yet harvest does not immediately mean ease. Grain must be processed. Portions may be owed. Stores must last. Seeds must be saved. Straw must be used for rope, sandals, mats, thatch, or animal bedding. Nothing ends at cutting. The harvest is a beginning of other tasks. A mountain field also keeps memory of labour from previous generations. The terraces may have been cut by grandparents or ancestors whose names are still spoken at the household altar. Stones in the banks may have been moved long before the present household head was born. A channel may follow a route agreed upon after old disputes. A tree at the edge of a field may mark a boundary as surely as a document. In this way, landscape becomes a record. The fields also shape the village's social life. Households help one another in busy seasons. Work exchanges can be formal or informal, expected or negotiated. A family short on labour may depend on relatives or neighbours. A wealthy household may hire help. A poor one may send someone out for seasonal work. No field stands fully alone because water does not respect one person's boundary, and neither do storms, pests, fire, or the demands of tax and repair. If we stand quietly by the paddies in late afternoon, we might see the entire village reflected in fragments. Roofline, sky, ridge, person, tree, cloud. The water trembles when a frog moves. A farmer straightens, presses a hand to the lower back, and looks toward the mountain. The work is not finished, but the day is beginning to lean toward evening. On the path above the fields, someone appears carrying a bundle of brushwood from the forest. The forest, too, has been part of the day's labour. Above the fields, the forest begins. It may be a mixed forest of cedar, cypress, pine, broadleaf trees, bamboo grass, shrubs, and seasonal undergrowth, depending on the region and elevation. From the village, it looks dark and steady, but to the people who live beneath it, the forest is divided by memory. One slope is good for brushwood, another for leaf litter. A certain hollow holds mushrooms after rain. A stand of trees belongs to a household, a temple, a lord, or the village in common. A path that seems invisible to a visitor is clear to those who have climbed it since childhood. The forest is useful in more ways than one. Firewood is the most obvious. Without wood, the hearth is only a pit of ash. Winter requires preparation long before winter arrives. Branches must be cut, gathered, dried, stacked, and protected from too much damp. A house that looks calm under snow has already borrowed warmth from many days of forest labour. Each evening fire begins somewhere on the mountain. Leaves and grasses can matter almost as much as logs. In many rural systems, leaf litter, grasses and brush were gathered for compost and fertiliser. The fertility of the field was not simply given by nature. It had to be made and remade through labour, manure, ash, plant matter, mud, and careful use of available resources. The forest fed the field indirectly. What fell under trees might eventually help rice, millet, beans, or vegetables grow. Some villages produced charcoal, especially where forests and market access made it practical. Charcoal making is slow, smoky work, requiring skill and attention to heat, wood type, airflow, and timing. A charcoal kiln in the mountains gives off a distinct smell. The smoke is not the quick smoke of a cooking fire, but a deeper, longer breath from the hillside. If charcoal is part of our imagined village's economy, it connects the mountain to towns where fuel is needed by households, inns, workshops, and bathhouses. The mountain also offers food. Mushrooms after rain, chestnuts in autumn, wild greens in spring, edible roots or shoots, and fruits gathered from trees. Not every wild plant is safe, and knowledge matters. An elder might teach a child which leaf to take and which to avoid, where to look, and when the season has passed. Such knowledge is not written in a grand book. It is carried in hands, names, gestures, and warnings. There may be medicinal plants as well, or plants believed to help with common discomforts. In a village far from a town doctor, household remedies and local knowledge have value, even when they are mixed with belief, uncertainty, and habit. A grandmother drying leaves near the hearth might not explain her knowledge as science. She knows what was taught to her, what seemed to work, and what the household expects. The forest is not open without rules. Commons can be generous, but they are rarely without boundaries. If too many people cut too much wood, everyone suffers. If animals are allowed in the wrong place, young growth may be damaged. If a household takes beyond its share, resentment can grow. So villages often develop rules about when to cut, where to gather, and who has access. These rules may be written in documents, spoken at meetings, remembered by elders, or enforced by custom. The mountain is shared, and shared things require attention. A person walking alone into the forest might feel the village fall away quickly. Behind them are roofs, voices, chickens, smoke, and the predictable geometry of fields. Ahead are trunks, roots, rocks, and shifting light. The air changes. It is cooler under trees. Sound is different. A crow calling in the forest feels farther away than a rooster in the lane. Water is heard before it is seen. A branch cracks underfoot. The body becomes alert, not frightened, simply awake to uneven ground. In spring, the forest is tender and damp. New leaves open in shades of green that seem almost translucent. Mountain vegetables may be gathered carefully. The ground is soft. Streams run fuller. In summer, the forest is dense, buzzing, and fragrant with wet bark and leaves. Leeches, insects, and heat may trouble the worker. In autumn, the forest becomes a storehouse of nuts, mushrooms, fallen leaves, and dry wood. In winter, it is quieter and more exposed. Snow lies on branches and hides stones. A familiar path can become uncertain under white cover. Carrying is an art. Firewood is bundled with rope and lifted onto the back. Brushwood may be tied to a frame. A person leans forward slightly under the load, placing each foot with care. The path down is often harder than the path up because weight changes balance. A young person learns how much can be carried and how foolish pride can make a load dangerous. To arrive home safely with a modest bundle is better than slipping under a heroic one. Some days, forest work is communal. People gather for cutting, clearing, or hauling. Voices move between trees. Tools strike wood. Someone laughs. Someone warns of a loose stone. Someone pauses to drink from a stream. Other days, it is solitary. A person may climb before dawn or in late afternoon, returning as the first lamps appear. The solitary forest path gives the slightly lonely feeling that suits this village. Not sadness, but distance. The mountains are close enough to protect and far enough to remind each person how small a household is. Timber for houses, bridges, tools and repairs is more complicated than gathering sticks. Good wood is valuable. Cutting a tree can require permission, payment or communal agreement, depending on ownership and local rules. A roof beam is not just a beam. It is a former tree selected, felled, shaped, lifted and set into a building that may stand for generations. When someone looks up at the dark beams over the hearth, they are looking at the mountain brought indoors. Bamboo, where available, gives baskets, fences, tools, pipes and small household objects. Vines bind, grasses thatch, bark can cover or tie. The forest is not separate from craft. Many objects in the house, from baskets to handles to roof materials, begin as things gathered outside. The boundary between cultivated and wild is not sharp. A paddy below depends on leaves gathered above. A meal beside the hearth may include mushrooms from the forest. The roof over that meal may be thatch cut from upland grass. The fire that cooks it may be wood carried from a managed slope. The ash from the fire may return eventually to soil. The village breathes in a circular way, though never perfectly and never without effort. As the afternoon light lowers, the forest path glows in patches. A worker carrying wood pauses where the trees open. From there, the village is visible below, roofs clustered together, smoke rising, water flashing in fields, and the faint movement of people returning from their tasks. The bundle on the back is heavy, but it is also future warmth. Tonight, when the hearth glows and the house settles into shadow, the forest will be present in every ember. By the time the bundle of firewood reaches the house, the day has turned toward the centre again. Work may continue outside, but the thought of food begins to pull people inward. In a rural household, cooking is not a decorative art separate from survival. It is the careful transformation of what the land, taxes, markets and seasons have allowed the household to keep. The image of old Japan often brings rice to mind, and rice mattered deeply. It shaped taxation, status, ritual, and ideas of wealth. But an ordinary mountain household might not eat polished white rice at every meal. Depending on region, status, harvest, and season, daily food could include barley, millet, buckwheat, mixed grains, beans, roots, vegetables, pickles, miso, wild greens, chestnuts, or other local foods. Rice might be mixed with other grains, saved for important moments, or eaten more regularly by households with greater means. The past is more accurate when we allow meals to vary. Let us imagine evening food being prepared slowly. In the doma, vegetables are washed, a radish is cut, greens are sorted, a wooden lid is lifted from a storage tub. Pickles are taken out in small amounts because salt, thyme, and vegetables are all valuable. A pot is hung over the irori, or placed on a cooking stove where the household uses one. The fire is adjusted not by a dial, but by fuel, ash, distance, and experience. Someone knows how to make a pot simmer without wasting wood. Miso soup is one of the great quiet comforts of Japanese food history, though its exact form differs by place and household. A simple soup can carry many things: miso, water, greens, tofu if available, mushrooms, daikon, or scraps of vegetables. It is warm, salty, and sustaining. In winter, the steam itself seems nourishing. In summer, a lighter meal may be preferred, but warm food still anchors the day. Buckwheat deserves a place in a mountain village. Soba is strongly associated with regions where buckwheat grows well in cooler or poorer soils. It can be ground into flour and made into noodles or other forms. Not every household would make beautiful noodles in the refined style of a town shop, but buckwheat as a crop and food fits the mountain setting. It grows where rice may struggle, and it brings a nutty, earthy flavour to the table. Barley and millet are humbler but important. They stretch meals, they fill bowls, they remind us that the countryside was not always the rice-filled image later nostalgia might create. A bowl of mixed grain, eaten with pickles and soup, is not glamorous. Yet after a day in the fields, it is received with quiet seriousness. Hunger sharpens gratitude. Food preservation is essential. Winter is long in mountain country. Fresh greens do not always wait by the door. Vegetables are pickled, dried, salted, or stored in ways that local knowledge allows. Persimmons may be peeled and hung to dry under eaves, becoming sweet and leathery in the cold air. Mushrooms can be dried. Beans are stored. Chestnuts are gathered and processed. Radishes are kept. Miso and pickles carry flavour through months when fields sleep under frost or snow. The kitchen is a place of skill that history often overlooks because the work repeats every day. To make limited ingredients satisfying, to avoid waste, to feed different ages, to stretch stores until the next season, to manage smoke and fire, to keep water clean, to notice when something is spoiling, to know which preserved food should be used first. These are forms of intelligence. They do not announce themselves. They appear in the fact that a household makes it through winter. At the hearth, seating follows habit. The elder may sit in a favoured warm place. The household head has a place. Children know where to sit unless they forget and are corrected. Guests, if present, change the arrangement. A meal is social, but it is also ordered. The hearth gathers bodies and makes visible the relationships among them. Let us sit quietly at the edge of the room and observe without intruding. Bowls are passed. Steam rises. Someone blows gently across the surface of soup. A child is reminded not to spill. An older person eats slowly. A young worker eats quickly and then reaches for more if there is enough. Outside, a rooster has gone quiet. The sky beyond the shutters darkens. The taste of the meal is tied to the day's labour. If greens came from the mountain is in the bowl. If the grain came from terraced fields, the water channels are in the bowl. If the miso was made months earlier, Time itself is in the bowl. If the firewood was carried from the forest, the warmth around the bowl is also part of the meal. Nothing is isolated. Small treats matter because they are not constant. A roasted chestnut, a piece of dried persimmon, a little extra rice at New Year or a festival, a sweet bought from a peddler, tea shared with a guest, a small fish from a stream or market, these moments stand out. In a calm narration, we do not need to exaggerate them. Their rarity gives them brightness. Tea may appear in the evening depending on household means and habit. It may be simple, not the formal tea of elite culture. A warm cup after the meal gives the hand something to hold. People speak of weather, field conditions, a neighbour's illness, a planned repair, the upcoming shrine duty, a rumour from the road. Conversation rises and falls around the fire. After eating, cleaning begins. Bowls are rinsed. Leftovers are stored. Ash is managed. The floor is swept. Food waste is not treated casually. Scraps may have a use for animals, compost, or another meal. A household economy is an economy of small savings. The person who wastes a little every day wastes much over a season. There is a gentleness in the quiet table, but we should not romanticize hunger. Some years were lean. Tax demands, bad weather, illness, or household misfortune could make food uncertain. Yet this script is not about suffering as spectacle. It is about the ordinary effort to make nourishment from a difficult landscape. To cook a simple meal, day after day, is one of the oldest forms of care. The fire lowers. A kettle remains warm. The smell of soup gives way to smoke and ash. Outside, the village is now a scatter of dim lights behind screens. Inside, hands continue to work, mending cloth, twisting straw, sorting beans, preparing for tomorrow. The meal is finished, but the household rhythm continues. A farmhouse is not only a building and a set of tasks, it is a household, and a household in an Edo-period village is both personal and economic. The people under one roof share meals, labour, reputation, obligations and memory. Their lives are intimate but not always private in the modern sense. The village knows who has many hands and who has few, who is careful, who is late with duties, who is generous, who quarrels, who is ill, who is married, who has lost a parent, who has taken in a relative, and who may need help after a difficult season. The shape of a household varies. It might include a married couple, children, grandparents, unmarried siblings, servants, apprentices, or relatives. A more prosperous farming household could be larger and more complex. A poorer one might be small and vulnerable to illness or age. Adoption, marriage, inheritance, and labour arrangements could all affect who live together. We should imagine variety, not a single fixed family model repeated everywhere. Still, continuity mattered. The house, fields, tools, rights, debts, obligations, and ancestral memory form something larger than one person. A household head might feel responsible not only to the living but to those who came before and those who would follow. This could be comforting, burdensome, or both. The family name was not just a sound. It was tied to land, work, records, neighbours, and ritual. Children learned through nearness. A small child might first know the house through warmth, smoke, and voices. Later, the child learns the lane, the water source, the neighbour's house, the safest stones in the stream, the field ridges and the forest edge. Work enters gradually. Carry this, watch that. Do not step there. Hold the basket. Bring kindling. Keep the younger child away from the fire. Listen when an elder speaks. Do not waste grain. Do not speak carelessly in another household. Formal schooling existed in some places, especially later in the Edo period, through temple schools and local teachers, and literacy spread in varied ways. But in a small mountain village, Much learning remained practical and household-based. A child might learn characters if the family had access to instruction or needed record skills. A child might also learn songs, prayers, field names, plant names, family stories, and the complicated manners of village life. Knowing how to read people could be as important as knowing how to read a page. Elders carry time. An old woman by the hearth may no longer work in the fields as she once did, but she may know when to plant a certain crop, how to judge stored miso, which family once argued over a boundary, what happened in a winter long ago, and how to soothe a child who cannot sleep. An old man may remember a road before it was repaired, a flood that changed a channel, a tax dispute, a shrine rebuilding, or a time when wolves were spoken of more often in the mountains. Their memories can be useful, but also selective, softened, sharpened, and shaped by pride or pain. The household rhythm is not equal for everyone. Gender, age, status, and local custom shape expectations. Women in farming households often carried enormous responsibilities. Cooking, water, fuel management, childcare, field labour, textile work, household accounts in some cases, food preservation, care of elders, and participation in community tasks. Men might be expected to handle certain field work, forest cutting, public meetings, tax matters, repair labour, and outside negotiations, though real life often required flexibility. Children and elders filled gaps as they could. The division of labour was not only a rule but a response to necessity. In the morning, the household spreads outward. By midday, it may be scattered across field, forest, house, and road. By evening, it gathers again around the hearth. This repeated gathering gives the family its shape. News is exchanged, instructions are given, complaints are muttered, a child is praised or scolded, an elder asks for more warmth, someone repairs a sleeve by lamplight, someone else prepares straw for sandal making. There is loneliness even within a household. A young bride from another village may miss the sound of her own home. A second son may wonder whether he will remain, be adopted elsewhere, seek work, or marry into another household. An old person may feel the world changing beyond their ability to follow. A child may be afraid of the dark space above the beams. These feelings need not become dramatic. They are simply part of life. The village is close, but the inner life remains partly hidden. The household altar, where present, offers a link to ancestors. The form varies according to religious affiliation and local practice, but remembrance of the dead is woven into family life. A name, a tablet, an offering, a seasonal observance, a temple visit. These gestures place the living within a longer line. In a house where space is limited and work is constant, a small moment of remembrance can change the feeling of a room. Marriage connects households and villages. It may bring a person from another settlement over the pass, carrying clothing, expectations, and uncertainty. The new household has its own habits, where things are stored, how food is seasoned, when work begins, how elders are addressed, which neighbours matter most. A person entering such a household must learn not only tasks, but atmosphere. The house itself can feel like a language. Illness changes the rhythm. A missing worker is not just an emotional concern, but a practical one. If someone cannot go to the field, someone else must. If a child is sick, sleep is broken. If an elder needs care, time shifts around them. Medicine, prayer, rest, herbal remedies, and visits to a healer or temple might all appear, depending on means and belief. A village knows illness not as an abstract condition, but as a change in daily sounds. A door not opened, a field untended, a pot carried to another house. Celebrations also shape the family. New Year preparations, seasonal festivals, births, marriages, coming-of-age moments, memorials, and harvest thanks all bring special foods, clothes, gestures, and visits. For children, these days become memory. A lantern, a drum, a sweet, snow on the path to the shrine, the smell of new straw, the sound of adults speaking in a different tone. The emotional life of the household is carried through small acts. Someone warms a bowl before handing it to an elder. Someone hides worry about the harvest from a child. Someone works late so another can rest. Someone saves a better piece of food for a guest. Someone repairs a tool that belonged to a father. These acts rarely enter official records, yet they are the substance of everyday life. If we watch the household at the close of day, we see layers of time in one room. A child lives mostly in the present, fascinated by sparks or shadows. A young adult thinks of tomorrow's work, marriage, debts, or reputation. A parent measures the season by stores and tasks. An elder hears older years in the same sounds. The hearth gathers all these times together. The fire burns in the present, but its smoke rises into beams darkened by the past. Beyond the family, the village continues to require attention. A household is never only itself. Tomorrow may bring a work party, a meeting, a festival duty, a tax matter, or a request from a neighbour. The children will learn this too. To belong to a house is to belong to a village, and to belong to a village is to carry obligations that reach beyond the doorway. Between the great tasks of planting and harvest, and especially during winter or rainy days, the village lives through smaller forms of work. These tasks do not always appear in broad summaries of history, but they fill the hours. They also make the difference between a household that survives barely and one that has a little flexibility. Straw is one of the most ordinary and useful materials in the village. After grain is harvested, the straw remains, and almost nothing about it is wasted. It can become sandals, rope, mats, rain protection, animal bedding, packaging, thatch, and countless small household items. To twist straw well takes practice. Hands learn tension, moisture, and thickness. A person sitting near the hearth in winter, twisting straw into rope, is continuing the work of the field after the grain itself is gone. Baskets are another quiet technology. A basket holds vegetables, leaves, kindling, silkworm trays, tools, food, or goods for market. Bamboo, vine, or split wood may be used depending on local materials. A good basket is light, strong, and suited to its task. It is not made by accident. The maker understands how fibres bend, where they split, and how the finished shape will rest against the body. Textile work may occupy many hands. Hemp, cotton in areas where it is available through trade or cultivation, silk or other fibres connect the household to larger economies. Women especially were often central to spinning, weaving, sewing and mending, though roles varied. Cloth is precious because it represents plant, animal, labour, time and money. A garment is patched, repatched, cut down, reused, and finally turned into rags or other household material. The life of cloth is long. In some mountain regions, sericulture, the raising of silkworms, became an important household industry, especially in the later Edo period and into the modern era. If our imagined village participates in silk production, the rhythm of the house changes when silkworms are being raised. Mulberry leaves must be gathered. Trays must be tended. Temperature, cleanliness, and timing matter. The tiny sound of silkworms feeding can fill a room like soft rain. This work connects a remote household to merchants, markets, and eventually far wider networks. Though the person carrying mulberry leaves may think first of the day's need, tool repair is constant. A hoe handle loosens, a sickle needs sharpening, a basket breaks, a roof tie frays, a sandal strap snaps. In a world where buying new things is not simple, repair is ordinary intelligence. The village may have specialists, a blacksmith in a nearby settlement, a carpenter, a cooper, a maker of certain tools, or a person known for skill with wood or straw. But every household also repairs what it can. Woodworking may be part of winter life. A man or skilled family member might shape handles, repair doors, carve small objects, or prepare parts for farm tools. Larger carpentry requires expertise, especially for houses and beams, but minor work is everywhere. The sound of a plane, the smell of shavings, and the feel of smooth wood belong to the indoor season. Charcoal, paper, lacquer, tobacco drying, horse gear, mountain products, or other side industries might appear depending on region. It is important not to put all of them in every village. Instead, we can imagine a few that suit our setting. Perhaps this village gathers brushwood, makes straw goods, raises some silkworms, and sends bundles of charcoal or firewood down toward a market town. Another village across the ridge might be known for paper. A village farther north might keep horses. Edo-period rural economies were local, varied, and often more commercially connected than a simple image of isolated peasants would suggest. The market town is important because cash is important. Taxes may be assessed in rice terms, but villagers need money or goods for tools, salt, metal, medicine, cloth, paper, ceremonial costs, and occasional purchases. A household that produces something beyond its own food gains options. A bundle of woven sandals, a load of charcoal, cocoons, dried mushrooms, or other goods may be carried to market or sold through middlemen. With money comes possibility, but also debt, temptation, and unequal opportunity. Imagine a winter afternoon. Snow lies on the roofs, the fields are quiet. In the house the hearth burns steadily. One person twists straw, another mends a sleeve. A child sorts beans, slowly at first and then with more focus. An elder watches and corrects the child's hands. Near the wall, a bundle of goods waits to be taken down to the road when weather clears. The room is not idle. It is dense with patient labour. Such work can be soothing to describe because it has rhythm. Twist, pull, fold, tie, thread, pierce, draw, smooth, scrape, plane, turn, stack. For sleep narration, these rhythms can carry the listener like the sound of rain. But historically, they also show something important. Village life did not stop when the field was not being planted. The household economy continued indoors. There is pride in skill. A well-made straw sandal may not be admired like a lacquered box in a wealthy home, but among people who walk mountain paths it matters. A good rain cape keeps the body drier. A strong basket does not spill on the path. A cleanly repaired tool saves time. The beauty of such things lies in their usefulness. They are designed by repetition. Children learn these skills by watching. At first their work is clumsy. Straw slips, thread tangles, a basket edge is uneven. Adults may scold, laugh, correct, or silently redo the work. Over time, the child's hands become part of the household's capacity. Skill is inheritance, just like land or a name. Side work also creates social gatherings. Women might work together while talking. Men might repair tools in a shared space. A neighbour may come to borrow a pattern, a tool, or advice. Work and conversation intertwine. News passes through hands as much as through roads. A rumour from the market town may be discussed while straw is twisted. A marriage possibility may be mentioned while cloth is folded. A complaint about a village duty may be whispered while baskets are mended. The small economy has moral rules as well. Fair measures, repayment, reputation, and trust matter. A household known to cheat may find fewer partners. A person who borrows and does not return damages more than an object. In a small community, economic behaviour becomes personal memory. As evening deepens, the goods of side work are set aside. A length of rope coils near the wall. A half-finished sandal waits for tomorrow. A repaired sleeve is folded. Outside, the snow or rain continues. The village appears still, But inside its houses, value is being made slowly by hands that rarely receive attention in official history. These quiet crafts lead naturally back to the wider order of the village, because each household's work is connected to shared duties, public costs, records, taxes, and communal expectations. The rope twisted by the fire may help tie a roof during a work party. The straw sandals may carry someone to a meeting. The repaired tool may be used to mend an irrigation channel. Nothing remains entirely private for long. A mountain village may look informal from a distance, a cluster of houses, paths, fields, and trees. But beneath the quiet surface is an order made from custom, records, obligation, and negotiation. The Edo period did not govern every village only by sending officials into every household. Much responsibility was placed on local structures. Villagers managed many matters among themselves, while also answering to the domain or shogunal authority above them. At the centre of this local order was often the village headman. The title depended on region, nanushi in some places, shoya in others, kimoiri elsewhere. Around him might be group leaders and farmer representatives, again with terms and arrangements that varied. These men did not all have the same power everywhere. Some came from wealthy or long-established households. Some acted as intermediaries between villagers and higher authorities. They might manage documents, tax collection, notices, boundary matters, labour obligations and disputes. The headman's house might be larger than others, or at least more prepared for public business. Imagine a room where papers are stored carefully, where an inkstone sits ready, where village seals, account books, and notices are kept out of damp. An oil lamp burns while men gather in low conversation. The subject may be an irrigation repair, a road duty, a tax assessment, a festival cost, a forest rule, or a message from officials. The scene is calm, but it carries weight. Taxes were among the most important obligations. The annual tax, often called nengu, could be assessed through rice-based measures of productivity, even when villages produced many other goods. In broad terms, farmers formed the economic base of the Tokugawa order. But tax life was not simply a ruler taking grain from an isolated person. Villages were often treated as responsible units. This meant that a failure by one household could become a concern for others, depending on the system in place. The village's internal allocation and collection could be complex and sometimes contested. 5 household groups, often known as goningumi, were used in many places as neighbourhood responsibility units. They could help organise mutual responsibility, order, fire prevention, and reporting. In daily life, this meant that a household was not only known by the village as a whole, but watched through nearer neighbours. Such systems could create support, but also pressure. The same closeness that helped people survive could make it difficult to hide failure or difference. Cooperation was practical. Irrigation channels needed group labour. Roads had to be cleared. Bridges had to be repaired. Fire prevention mattered because houses of wood and thatch, gathered close together, could be vulnerable. Festivals and shrine duties required contributions. If snow blocked a path, people might have to open it. If a roof needed rethatching, neighbours could be called. The village was a web of obligations because the work was too large for isolated households. Let us imagine a meeting after the day's field labour. Men from several households arrive at the headman's house. They remove footwear and enter. The room smells of smoke, paper, and damp clothing. A lamp is set near the papers. The headman reads or explains a notice. A group leader speaks about a channel that is silted up. Someone says the upper fields need water first. Someone else says the lower fields were short last year. Voices remain low, but the issue matters. Water is never only water. It is food, tax, fairness, memory, and future. Disputes could arise over boundaries, labour shares, forest access, water timing, debts, inheritance, and conduct. Not every disagreement became formal. Many were handled through conversation, mediation, apology, or pressure. In a small village, living together after an argument may be more important than winning completely. Yet some disputes did become serious enough to involve documents or authorities beyond the village. The quietness of rural life should not make us imagine perfect harmony. Community is often strongest where conflict must be managed carefully. Records are another hidden part of village life. Cadastral surveys, tax ledgers, population registers, temple affiliations, land transfers and agreements could all matter. A villager unable to read may still live inside a world shaped by writing. A brush mark in a ledger can affect what a household owes. A boundary written down can preserve or challenge memory. The headman, scribes, monks and educated villagers help translate between paper and field. Fire prevention is especially vivid in a village of wood and thatch. Households may be expected to keep tools ready, buckets, ladders, hooks, or other equipment depending on local custom and means. Watchfulness matters. A careless flame can threaten more than one family. The hearth gives life, but it must be respected. At night, embers are banked carefully. Children are warned. Ash is handled with attention. Fire is domestic and communal at the same time. Festivals also belong to village order. A shrine event may feel joyful or sacred, but someone must pay for repairs, arrange offerings, clean paths, prepare lanterns, organize musicians or ritual roles, and settle who does what. The beauty of a festival rests on planning. A lantern glowing under cedars may seem effortless to a traveller, but the villagers know whose hands made the paper frame, who supplied the oil, who swept the steps, and who carried offerings. The village order could be unequal. Wealthier households had more influence. Poorer households had less room to refuse demands. Headmen could be respected, resented, or both. Some families carried privileges from older times or from long service. Others struggled under obligations that felt heavier than their resources. Historical accuracy asks us to hold both truths. Cooperation was real, and inequality was real. Yet even inequality does not erase mutual dependence. A wealthy household still needs water channels maintained. A poor household still has knowledge, hands, and place in the village. During planting, harvest, fire, festival, illness, or snow, the network tightens. People may not love every neighbour, but they know they live among them. At the end of a meeting, the papers are folded or set aside. Men rise slowly. Outside, the night air is colder than the room. Each person walks back along a familiar lane, carrying not only the decision made, but the feeling of how it was made. Was it fair? Was someone ignored? Will the work party be enough? Will the tax be difficult this year? The village sleeps, but its obligations do not vanish. They wait in the dark like tools by the door. This local order connects the mountain village to the wider Edo world. A notice may come from a domain office. A tax delivery may go down the road. A travelling official may pass through. But most of the time, authority is felt through local tasks. The repaired channel, the ledger, the meeting, the festival share, the watch against fire. History enters the village not only in grand decrees, but in the small discipline of keeping a community functioning. Beyond the last houses, the lane narrows and becomes a road. At first, it is only a village path, marked by feet, hooves, rainwater, and the memory of repeated travel. It descends past fields, crosses a stream by a small bridge, and winds toward a larger route below. The villagers know this road by season. In spring, it is muddy. In summer, grasses lean over it. In autumn, dry leaves gather along the edges. In winter, snow can erase it almost completely. The road is the village's thread to the wider world. It brings salt, iron, paper, cloth, medicine, news, officials, monks, pilgrims, peddlers, and sometimes relatives from other places. It also takes things away: tax rice or goods, charcoal, straw products, cocoons, timber, young people seeking work, daughters marrying into another valley, sons sent on errands, and stories that began beside one hearth and end beside another. A peddler arriving in the village changes the day's texture. He may carry needles, combs, small mirrors, paper, medicine, thread, cheap ornaments, tobacco in some regions, or other small goods. His pack is a moving shop. Children notice him first, perhaps. Dogs bark. Women or men come to the doorway to see what he has brought. Purchases are careful. A needle is not nothing. Paper is not nothing. Salt is essential. A bright scrap of cloth might be admired and left unbought. The peddler also brings information. Not official information necessarily, and not always reliable, but alive. A fire in a market town, a poor harvest in another valley, a new official, a strange traveller, a rumour about prices, a festival that drew a crowd, a road washed out. News arrives as conversation, folded into bargaining. By evening, the peddler's words may be repeated around several hearths, changed slightly each time. Pack horses may pass on the lower road. Their bells or wooden gear make a distinct sound. Loads are balanced carefully. Charcoal, grain, timber, cloth, salt, or goods packed for inns and towns. A horse on a mountain road is valuable but not simple. It must be fed, cared for, guided and protected from bad footing. In some regions, horses are central to transport and farming. In others, human backs and smaller animals do more of the work. If the village lies near a post road, the world feels larger. The Nakasendo, for example, connected Edo and Kyoto through inland mountain country, and was lined with post towns where travellers could rest, eat, change horses, or find lodging according to status and means. A villager from a side valley might visit such a town occasionally, seeing travellers whose clothing, speech and purpose differ from local patterns. The post town is not the capital, but to someone from a quiet valley, it may feel busy enough. Travel in the Edo period was regulated in many ways, especially for certain classes and routes, but it was also a common part of life for merchants, pilgrims, messengers, officials, monks, entertainers, and ordinary people with reasons to move. Pilgrimage could blend devotion, travel, sightseeing, and social experience. A villager might hear of Ise, Zenkoji, or other sacred destinations, even if never travelling far. The road makes imagination mobile. Let us follow one villager to the market town. He leaves before the sun is high, carrying a load on his back. Perhaps it is straw goods, mushrooms, charcoal, or something requested by a merchant. The path descends through trees, crosses a bridge, and widens near the first houses of the town. There are more voices here, more smells: miso, horse sweat, river mud, cooking oil, wet straw, smoke, and human closeness. Shop signs may hang above doorways. A blacksmith's hammer rings. Someone calls prices. A child from town stares at the mountain villager's load. In the market, the villager trades or sells. He must know what his goods are worth, or at least what he hopes they are worth. He must buy what the household needs without spending too much. Salt, metal repair, medicine, paper for records, a little tea, cloth, or festival items may all tempt the purse. If prices have shifted, he brings that worry home. Markets connect households to forces they do not control. The road also carries official presence. A notice from the domain may come through the headman. Officials or representatives might travel with attendants. A villager seeing such a party from a distance may step aside. Authority has sounds, sandals, voices, formal clothing, paper packets, perhaps horses. Yet in many cases authority reaches the village not through dramatic arrivals, but through documents and obligations that move quietly along roads. Religious travellers also appear. A monk may request lodging or alms. A pilgrim may pause at the shrine. A travelling ascetic, storyteller or performer may be remembered by children for years. Not all travellers are welcome in the same way. Hospitality has limits. Villagers may be curious, cautious, generous, or suspicious depending on the person, season, and circumstances. Roads create longing. A young person may stand where the village path meets the larger road and wonder what lies beyond the pass. The world outside is not necessarily better, but it is different. A road suggests possibility: work, marriage, pilgrimage, trade, escape, return. For most people, the village remains the centre, but the imagination travels farther than the feet. At dusk, the road becomes quiet again. A traveller hurries toward lodging. A peddler chooses whether to continue or seek a place to sleep. A villager returning from market climbs more slowly than he descended because his load has changed and the day has tired him. The village roofs appear above, and smoke rising from them feels like welcome. The road brought the world close, but the hearth draws him back. In the evening, goods from the road are unpacked. Salt is put away. A tool repair is inspected. A piece of news is told. Someone asks the price of grain. A child asks about the town. The traveller removes sandals and warms his feet. Outside, the road darkens, waiting for the next footsteps. The village is not isolated, but neither is it overwhelmed. It listens to the road, then returns to its own rhythm. Every village has places where ordinary paths become more than ordinary. A small shrine may stand in a grove above the houses, reached by stone steps worn uneven by rain, moss, sandals, and time. A rope hangs beneath the roof. Paper streamers move in the wind. Stone guardians sit quietly at the entrance, their features softened by weather. The shrine is not grand, but grandeur is not the point. It belongs to the village because the village returns to it. Nearby, or in another part of the settlement, there may be a Buddhist temple that keeps records, holds memorial services, supports funerary customs, and gives spiritual structure to family life. During the Tokugawa period, religion was woven deeply into administration and society. The practice varied widely. Villagers might participate in shrine festivals, Buddhist memorial rites, ancestor observances, pilgrimage traditions, and local beliefs without drawing the hard boundaries that modern categories sometimes expect. The spiritual landscape of the village is layered. For a farming community, ritual often follows the agricultural year. In spring, prayers may be offered for planting, water, protection, and good growth. During the rainy season, rituals might ask for safety from pests, damaging weather, or illness. In autumn, thanks may be given for harvest. These events are not simply ideas. They are preparations, sounds, foods, clothing, paths swept clean, lanterns hung, offerings arranged, and neighbours gathered. Imagine the shrine before a festival. Children are told to help sweep leaves from the steps. Men repair a small railing or carry a drum. Women prepare food or offerings according to local custom. The headman or shrine representatives discuss costs and duties. A priest, if one serves the shrine, arrives or prepares. The grove smells of cedar, damp stone, and fresh-cut greenery. The village, usually divided by household tasks, begins to face one direction. On the festival evening, lanterns glow. Their light is not bright enough to erase darkness, only enough to make darkness gentle. Paper shades tremble slightly. The sound of a drum carries across the fields. People arrive in better clothing if they have it. Children become excited, then sleepy. An elder remembers how the festival looked when he was young and says, perhaps that the old songs were stronger then. Someone laughs, someone disagrees. Ritual can be solemn without being heavy. A bow, a clap, an offering, a chant, a bell, a procession. These gestures create order in time. They tell the villagers that the season has turned and that they are not alone in facing it. Whether one thinks of deities, ancestors, Buddhist teachings, local spirits, or community bonds, the effect is to connect ordinary labour with meanings beyond the individual field. Ancestor remembrance brings the past into the house. A household altar may receive offerings, names may be spoken, memorial days may be observed. The dead remain part of family time. They are not present like the living, yet they shape the household. The field work today may have been worked by them. The beam over the hearth may have been lifted by them. The path to the shrine may have carried them in festival clothes long ago. A child learns reverence first as behaviour. Do not run here, bow there, carry this carefully, be quiet now. Later, meaning deepens. The child learns which ancestor died young, which one cleared a field, which one married from another village, which one was known for stubbornness, kindness, skill, or misfortune. Family history is not always written, but it is told in fragments. The temple bell, where there is one within hearing, shapes sound. A bell heard through rain is different from a bell heard through snow. Its tone seems to spread slowly, touching roofs, fields and trees before fading into the slopes. In a sleep narration, such a sound is almost a guide. It tells the listener that time is passing gently, that the village has a rhythm older than any one person awake tonight. New Year is one of the great thresholds. The house is cleaned. Debts and obligations may be considered. Special foods are prepared if means allow. Decorations mark the doorway. People visit, greet, and begin again. In a mountain village, snow may make the world white and quiet, while the interior of the house becomes full of preparation. New Year is public and private, a village event, a family event, and a turning of the heart toward renewal. Other seasonal observances may bring children into the centre of attention. Dolls, banners, small offerings, or local rites vary by region and era. We do not need to list them all. What matters for our village is that the calendar is not empty. Each season carries expected gestures, and those gestures help people feel where they are in the year. Ritual also manages uncertainty. Farmers cannot command weather. They can work, repair, weed, plant, save seed, and watch the sky, but they cannot guarantee the harvest. A prayer does not replace labour. It sits beside labour, giving form to hope. In this sense, the shrine and the field are not separate worlds. The person who bows at the shrine in spring may be the same person who spends the next day knee-deep in mud. The lonely quality of a mountain shrine appears after the festival ends. The lanterns are removed. The steps are quiet. Leaves return. Snow gathers on the roof. The stone guardians sit through weather without complaint. A villager passing alone may bow quickly, perhaps thinking of a sick child, a difficult debt, a journey, or nothing in particular. The shrine remains available to both public celebration and private worry. Temples and shrines also connect the village beyond itself. Priests, monks, pilgrim routes, religious networks, donations and calendars tie a small settlement to wider traditions. A charm from a famous temple may hang in a farmhouse. A story from a pilgrimage may be told beside the hearth. A name recorded in a temple book may outlast the voice that once carried it. As evening settles after a ritual day, people return home along paths lit by lanterns or moonlight. Children are tired. Adults carry leftover items. The shrine grove grows dark behind them. In the houses, festival clothes are folded away, food is shared, and ordinary life resumes. But ordinary life has been refreshed by the sense that the village has stood together before something larger than itself. The fields will still need weeding, taxes will still be due, roofs will still leak. Yet the ritual has marked time, and marked time is easier to inhabit. It tells the village, spring has begun, Summer has turned, autumn has given what it will give, winter must be endured, the dead are remembered, the living continue. A year in the mountain village does not move like a straight road. It circles, rises, returns, and changes texture with each season. The same path from house to field can feel like 4 different paths depending on rain, heat, leaves, or snow. The same hearth can be a place to avoid in summer and a place to gather close in winter. The same field can be mirror, green carpet, golden promise, and silent earth. Spring begins before it looks like spring. Snow retreats from sunny patches first, leaving damp earth and flattened grasses. In shaded places, whiteness lingers. Water runs louder as thaw comes down from the slopes. The air smells of mud, smoke, and new growth. People repair what winter has loosened. Field banks, roof edges, paths, channels, fences. The village stretches itself after cold months, but slowly, because mountain spring can be uncertain. Blossoms appear in stages. Plum, cherry, wild mountain flowers, and new leaves do not all arrive together. A flowering branch near a farmhouse may be noticed with pleasure, but no one forgets the work it announces. Beauty and duty arrive in the same season. Seeds must be prepared. Seedlings must be watched. Tools must be readied. Water channels must be cleared of leaves, stones, and winter damage. Spring rain is soft when it's kind. It darkens the thatch, beads on bamboo, and makes the field smell alive. The sound on the roof is steady enough to sleep by. But rain also delays work or makes paths slippery. A villager listens to rain not as background but as information. Is it gentle enough to help? Heavy enough to trouble the channel? Will it last until morning? The house is quiet while the sky decides. As rice seedlings are prepared and fields are flooded, the village becomes a place of reflections. The terraces hold sky. Clouds drift in water. A person walking along a paddy ridge seems to move between 2 worlds, mountain above and mountain below. Frogs begin their evening chorus. Children may imitate them, then be told to stop. The fields, recently brown and sleeping, become full of green intention. Early summer brings planting. The work is communal in feeling even when organised by household. Bodies bend in rows. Feet disappear into mud. Seedlings pass from hand to hand. Voices keep rhythm. The field is a place of concentration. A young person new to the work may plant unevenly and be corrected. An experienced worker moves with a calm efficiency that looks almost effortless, only because years have entered the muscles. After planting comes watching. Water must be managed. Weeds must be controlled. Pests and disease must be noticed. The mountains grow thick with green. Insects fill the air. Clothing sticks to the skin. Thunder may build behind the ridge in late afternoon. A person in the field looks up, measures the clouds, and decides whether to continue or hurry home. High summer is full of sound. Cicadas in the trees, water in channels, children near the stream, a distant axe, the slap of sandals on damp paths, dogs sleeping in shade. The village seems more awake, yet work can be tiring in the heat. People rise early, rest when they can, drink water and seek shade under eaves. The hearth is still used, but its comfort changes. Fire becomes necessary rather than welcome. Summer festivals bring lightness. Lanterns, drums, prayers, offerings and visits give the season shape. A humid evening may glow with paper lanterns while insects gather around them. Children remember such nights because they are different from work nights. Adults may remember them because they briefly loosen the line between duty and pleasure. Then, almost quietly, autumn begins. The light changes first. It becomes clearer, lower, more golden. The mountains darken in tone before they blaze. Grasses dry along the paths. Persimmons colour near the houses. Chestnuts fall. The air carries smoke from fields and hearths differently than in summer. People begin to speak more often of harvest. Harvest is relief, labour and calculation together, cutting, bundling, drying, carrying, threshing, winnowing, storing. Each task leads to the next. The village is busy but not frantic in our telling. We can hear straw against straw, wooden tools striking, voices calling across yards, children chasing each other until they are told to help. The fields that were mirrors in spring now give bundles of grain. The year becomes visible in the hand. Autumn food has a special feeling. Chestnuts, mushrooms, new grain, if there is enough. Persimmons drying under eaves, vegetables pulled from the ground, and the deepening taste of stored foods. The table is still modest, but the season offers variety. A bowl may taste more generous. A household may allow itself a small satisfaction, even while setting aside what is owed and what must last. The mountains in late autumn become both beautiful and warning. Leaves turn, then fall. Bare branches reveal slopes hidden all summer. The first frost appears. Morning water bites the hands. Firewood stacks are checked. Roofs are examined. Gaps are repaired. Winter clothing is brought out and mended. Straw sandals are made in greater number. The village begins to face inward. Winter arrives as silence. Snow may come lightly at first, then heavily, depending on the region and year. It softens roofs, covers paths, and changes the shape of sound. A village under snow is not asleep, but its work is enclosed. People move carefully. Water sources may freeze at the edges. Animals require attention. Firewood disappears from the stack faster than anyone likes. Smoke rises straighter in cold air. Inside, winter is the season of the hearth. The irori becomes the heart of the room in a fuller way. People sit close, not only for companionship but for warmth. Straw is twisted, tools are repaired, cloth is mended, stories are told. Children learn family histories, ghostly tales, old songs, work songs, and practical warnings. A storm outside can make the house feel like a boat, held in darkness and sound. Winter food is careful food. Preserved vegetables, miso, dried mushrooms, beans, grains, and anything stored from autumn must be used with thought. A dried persimmon can feel luxurious. Soup becomes deeper. Tea tastes warmer. Hunger may press in poorer households, and the cold can make every task harder. Yet winter also gives a kind of stillness that summer never allows. The fields rest. The forest stands quiet. The village hears itself. Snow changes relationships. A neighbour's path may need clearing. An elder may need help. A roof may need attention if the load grows heavy. Travel becomes difficult, so the road's connection to the world weakens for a time. News slows. Markets feel farther away. The village becomes more completely itself, enclosed by ridges and weather. Then, even in winter, signs of return begin before they are obvious. The light lengthens slightly, snow softens on sunny days, drips fall from eaves, birds sound different. Someone notices a bud. Someone says it is too early to trust the warmth. Someone else smiles because the saying is familiar. The year is not a line ending in cold. It is a circle loosening again towards spring. To live by such a year is to carry multiple calendars. The official calendar of taxes, documents and domain notices. The religious calendar of festivals and memorials. The agricultural calendar of planting, weeding, harvest and repair. The household calendar of births, marriages, illnesses, deaths and debts. The natural calendar of blossoms, insects, rain, frost and snow. In a mountain village, these calendars overlap until life itself becomes a woven pattern. If we look back across the year from a winter evening, the village seems both unchanged and entirely changed. The the same roofs remain. The same stream runs, the same shrine waits under trees, but spring's water, summer's insects, autumn's straw, and winter's smoke have all passed through the houses. People are a year older. Children have learned new tasks. Elders have repeated old stories. Fields have given what they could. The mountains have watched without speaking. Now that we've moved through the year, let us return to one day and allow it to unfold without hurry. Imagine a day in late autumn, after the main harvest has been brought in, but before winter has fully taken the valley. The morning is cold enough for breath to show, but the sun, once it reaches the fields, will be kind. Before dawn the village is dark. The roofs are heavy with dew. The stream below the houses continues its work in the blackness. Inside one farmhouse the hearth is stirred. A coal is found, the fire returns, a kettle is set. The first person awake moves softly so as not to disturb the others, though in a small house every movement is heard by someone. Water is carried. The bucket comes back shining in the dim light. Grain is warmed, pickles are sliced, a little miso is stirred into soup, bedding is folded, a child resists waking, an elder coughs near the hearth, someone opens a shutter, and the outside air enters like a thin blade. The mountains are still blue. After the meal, tools are gathered. Today there is field work, but not the wet work of spring. There is straw to move, a small storage task to finish, and leaves to gather from the lower forest. The household divides itself. 2 people go toward the fields. 1 remains near the house. A child is sent with a basket and instructions clear enough to repeat but easy enough to forget. In the lane, neighbours are doing similar things. 1 man carries a bundle of stakes. Another bends over a sandal strap. A woman speaks with a neighbour while holding a wooden pail. Chickens move along the edge of a wall. Smoke rises from several roofs and leans in the same direction, telling everyone something about the wind. The fields after harvest have a different beauty. They are open, stubbled, and golden brown. Some bundles have already been carried away. Straw remains stacked or drying. The air smells of cut plants, earth, and smoke. A few birds search the ground. The mountains behind the fields are dark green and rust-coloured where leaves have begun to turn. Work begins. Straw is gathered, tied, and sorted for use. Some will become rope or sandals. Some may be used for thatch or bedding. Some will return to the soil. The people working speak little at first. Cold morning makes the body economical. As the sun rises, voices loosen. A joke passes. Someone mentions that snow came early one year when the persimmons were still hanging. An elder says the signs are not the same this year. No one fully believes or disbelieves him. By mid-morning, the child with the basket has wandered slightly from the assigned task and is called back. The correction is not harsh. It is part of learning. The child returns with leaves, then is shown which ones are useful and which are too wet or mixed with dirt. The work of gathering is also the work of seeing. Near the house, another family member mends cloth and watches a pot. The doma is busy with small tasks, sorting, sweeping, storing, checking what must be taken to market later in the week. A neighbour stops by to ask about borrowing a tool. The answer is yes, but with a reminder to bring it back before the next work party. Such exchanges keep the village moving. At midday, the household eats simply. Perhaps warm soup, grain, pickles, and tea. The sun reaches the doorway. For a short while, the house feels almost leisurely. A cat, if one is present, finds warmth near the threshold. The child becomes sleepy and is told to stay awake. Outside, the wind moves dry leaves along the lane. After the meal, someone goes to the forest edge. The path is familiar, rising beyond the last field. Leaves are gathered for compost. Small branches are collected. Mushrooms are searched for in a place known from earlier years. Not many are found, but enough to add to soup. The forest is quiet in a different way from the village. Every footstep has a crisp sound. The smell of fallen leaves is deep and faintly sweet. From a break in the trees, the village is visible below. Smoke rises, fields lie open. A person on the road looks very small. The mountains beyond the opposite slope are layered in autumn colour. For a moment the worker stands still. This stillness is not leisure exactly. It is a pause between necessary movements. The view belongs to the day as much as any task. In the afternoon, a peddler appears on the lower road and climbs toward the village. He does not stay long, but his arrival draws attention. He has needles, paper, a few small packets of medicine, thread, and news from the market town. Someone buys needles. Someone asks about salt prices. Someone else only listens. The peddler drinks water, adjusts his pack, and continues toward another settlement before the light fades. His news travels faster than he does. By late afternoon, several households have heard that a bridge lower in the valley needs repair, that a merchant has raised prices, and that a family in another village is arranging a marriage. These are not grand events, but in a mountain village they are enough to flavour the evening. As the sun drops behind the ridge, the air cools quickly. Tools are brought in, leaves are piled, straw is stacked under cover. The child is sent to fetch something and returns with the wrong item, then the right one. A rooster settles. A dog barks at nothing visible. The first lamps are prepared. Evening food begins. The mushrooms from the forest are cleaned and added carefully. The soup smells of earth and smoke. The household gathers. The day's work is reviewed in small remarks. The peddler's news is repeated. Someone wonders whether the bridge repair will require village labour. Someone says that if the weather holds, they should go to market before the road worsens. After supper, work continues near the hearth. Straw is twisted. A tool handle is smoothed. A sleeve is patched. The child finally falls asleep, leaning too close to the warmth until someone gently moves them. The elder tells a story about a winter when snow covered the lower shrine steps completely. The story may have been told before, but tonight it fits the season, so no one objects. Outside, stars appear above the ridge. The village has no bright modern lights, so the sky feels large even between the mountains. The stream continues in darkness. The forest path disappears. The road is empty. Inside, the fire lowers. This single day contains no famous event. No record keeper in the capital will mention it. Yet it contains nearly everything: food, work, family, weather, trade, memory, discipline, irritation, warmth, and rest. Most history is made of such days, repeated until they become invisible. Tonight, we're simply allowing one of them to be seen. There's a particular loneliness in mountain villages that is not the same as sorrow. It comes from distance, weather, and the shape of the land. A house can be full of people and still feel small beneath the ridges. A village can be close-knit and still know that beyond the pass the world goes on without hearing its stream. Weather makes this feeling stronger. On clear days the mountains are companions. They frame the sky, guide the eye, and give the village a sense of being held. On rainy days they withdraw behind mist. Paths vanish after a few turns. The forest becomes a wall of wet leaves. Sound is softened. A person standing under the eaves may see only the nearest roof and the line of water dripping from the thatch. Rain in the village is not one sound, but many. On thatch, it is thick and low. On wooden boards, sharper. In the stream, it becomes a growing rush. In the paddy, it is 1,000 small touches. On a straw hat, it becomes intimate, a sound directly above the head. Rain can make people sleepy, but it can also make them watchful. Too much rain may trouble fields or roads. Gentle rain invites rest only when work allows. Mist changes distance. A shrine that is normally visible above the houses becomes a suggestion. The road below disappears. A person walking with a load of firewood seems to appear from nowhere, then vanish again. In such weather the village feels older, as if it belongs less to maps than to memory. The world is reduced to what can be heard. Water, sandals, a cough, a bell, a dog, wind in bamboo. Snow brings another kind of silence. It covers roughness and makes even familiar objects strange. A pile of tools becomes a white shape. The field ridges soften. The path to the water source must be opened again and again. Roofs carry weight. Smoke rises into cold air with unusual clarity. At night, snow reflects moonlight, and the village seems to glow from below. Inside the house during snow, people listen differently. A branch drops its load with a muffled thud. Someone pauses in their work, then continues. The fire makes small sounds. The kettle breathes. The child asks whether the road will open tomorrow. An adult says they will see. That answer belongs to mountain life. They will see. The weather is not commanded. Wind can be more unsettling than snow. It moves under eaves, presses screens, and makes trees speak in many voices. In a house without modern insulation, wind is felt as presence. It finds cracks. It lifts smoke. It reminds the household that the walls are human work standing against a larger world. Yet wind also clears the sky, dries clothes, and signals changes. Like most things in the village, it is both difficulty and usefulness. Fog in early morning can make the fields seem endless because their edges are hidden. A person walking along a paddy ridge hears water but sees little. Another voice may come from nearby and still feel distant. Such mornings are good for a sleep script because they blur the world gently. But historically they also matter. Work begins even when visibility is poor. People rely on memory of paths and the feel of the ground. The loneliness of the mountains also comes from travel. To reach another village may require climbing, descending, crossing streams and watching weather. A market town that seems close on a map may be far on tired legs. A person leaving before dawn may return after dark. A letter or message travels only as fast as someone carries it. News is not constant. Silence has room to grow, but loneliness is softened by routine. The same bell, the same hearth, the same neighbour's voice, the same path to the spring. Repetition is a kind of companionship. Even the mountains, silent as they are, become familiar presences. A certain peak catches the first light. A certain ridge predicts weather. A certain tree marks the place where the path turns. The land becomes known enough to feel almost personal. There is also the loneliness of historical distance. We can describe the village, but we cannot fully recover every voice. Many people who lived such lives left few written words of their own. Records may tell us taxes, land, disputes, temple affiliations and obligations, but not always the sound of a mother's laugh, the private worry of a farmer before harvest, or the exact way a child saw moonlight on snow. This absence should make us gentle. We are visiting through imagination guided by evidence, not claiming to possess everything. The calm of the village is therefore not emptiness. It is a space where many quiet experiences happened without being recorded. Someone missed a person who had married away. Someone feared a bad harvest. Someone loved the smell of spring rain. Someone disliked field work but did it well. Someone wanted to see Edo. Someone never wanted to leave the valley. Someone found peace in the shrine grove. Someone found peace only when work was done and the household slept. As night deepens, the mountains become silhouettes. The village loses its edges. Only the nearest sounds remain: a stream, a fire, a sleeping breath, perhaps a bell, perhaps wind. In that darkness, the village seems both sheltered and alone, not abandoned, not unhappy, simply small beneath a wide sky. For sleep, this feeling can be comforting. It reminds us that not every loneliness is despair. Some loneliness is quiet space. Some is distance from noise. Some is the hush between one day's work and the next. In the Edo-period mountain village, that hush belongs to the valley itself. Nightfall comes early in the mountains, especially in autumn and winter. The sun drops behind the ridge before the sky is fully darkened, and the village enters a blue hour in which roofs, trees and fields lose their separate colours. People hurry slightly, not in panic, but with the old understanding that work is easier before the light leaves. A final bucket of water may be carried. A gate may be checked. Firewood is brought closer to the entrance. Tools are placed where they will not be lost in darkness. Chickens are settled. If animals are kept nearby, they are fed and secured. A child is sent to bring in something forgotten and returns quickly because the path already feels different. Inside, the hearth becomes brighter as the world outside dims. During the day, the fire is one element among many. At night, it becomes the centre. Faces turn toward it. Shadows rise behind people on the walls and beams. Smoke moves upward into the roof space. The jizaikiya hangs still above the pot, dark against the glow. The evening meal has its own slower pace. People are tired. Conversation may be less practical now or more reflective. Someone mentions the shape of the moon. Someone recalls a traveller from years ago. Someone speaks of a coming duty. Someone says nothing at all. Silence around the hearth is not empty if everyone understands it. Light is precious. Oil lamps, rushlights, candles, or other forms of lighting vary by means and region, but none give the careless brightness of modern electricity. Tasks after dark must suit the light available. Mending, straw work, conversation, simple preparation, and storytelling belong to the evening. Detailed work is harder unless the household can afford better light. The house creaks as temperature changes. Wood contracts. Wind touches the eaves. The roof settles. These sounds are familiar, but in childhood they may feel alive. A child watches the shadows above the hearth and imagines shapes in the smoke-blackened beams. An elder, seeing the child's eyes, may tell a story. It might be a folk tale, a memory, a warning about the forest, or an old account of a winter so deep that the road vanished for days. Storytelling in such a house does not need a stage. It happens while hands continue working. A person twists straw while speaking. Another mends cloth. Someone stirs the pot. The story pauses when a knot must be tied, then resumes. This rhythm is different from reading. It belongs to voices shaped by repetition, memory, and the responses of listeners. Some stories are local. A strange light seen near a pass. A fox associated with a shrine. A traveller who lost the path. A generous neighbour remembered from a famine year but not described in grim detail. A child who became a successful merchant. A headman who argued well with officials. A foolish man who ignored weather signs. Such stories teach without announcing themselves as lessons. Night also brings care. Embers must be managed. Doors and shutters are checked. Food is covered. Tools are set aside. Bedding is spread. In cold weather, people arrange themselves for warmth. The household sleeping pattern depends on space, season, and family composition. Privacy is limited. The sounds of others sleeping are part of the night. Before sleep, someone may offer a small prayer or gesture of remembrance. Not every night is formal, and not every person practices in the same way, but the presence of ancestors, deities, or Buddhist observance may be felt in small acts. A bow, a murmured phrase, a glance toward an altar, the extinguishing of a lamp with care. The day closes not with a dramatic ending, but with a sequence of familiar gestures. Outside, the village is nearly dark. A few faint lights remain behind screens. The stream continues. If the moon is bright, roofs and fields take on a silver edge. If clouds cover the sky, the houses disappear into the mountain shadow. Dogs quiet. Birds have long since settled. The road below is empty or nearly so. A night watch may be organised in some places, especially for fire prevention or village security, depending on custom and need. Someone walking through the village at night might carry a lantern and listen for anything unusual. The danger of fire makes night discipline important, but tonight, in our gentle version, all remains calm. The watchman, if there is one, hears only water, wind, and the occasional shift of an animal. In the farmhouse, the last tasks end. A tool is placed against the wall, a bowl is turned upside down to dry, the child is carried or guided to bedding, the elder's cover is adjusted, the fire is banked so that a coal may remain for morning. The room darkens by degrees. This is one of the most intimate moments in the village day, the surrender of activity. The household that has been labouring since before dawn finally stops. Not because every task in life is done, but because the day has reached its edge. Tomorrow's work waits, but it cannot be done tonight. The field, road, forest, shrine, and meeting house all recede. Only breathing remains, the smoke in the rafters, the tools near the door, the stored grain, the folded cloth, the sleeping bodies, and the hidden ember together form a picture of continuity. The household is vulnerable in many ways, yet it has made it through another day. That is not a small thing. As we leave the house in imagination, we do so quietly. We do not slide the door too loudly. We step into the cold lane and look back once at the faint glow behind the screen. Then we walk toward the edge of the village, where the path meets the fields and the mountains rise in darkness on every side. Before we finally leave the village to its sleep, there are a few quieter details worth noticing, the kind that may not fit neatly into a single room, field, or season, but which give the past its texture. One is the importance of paper. In a village of wood, water, soil, and straw, paper may seem fragile, yet it carries authority. A notice from the domain, a tax record, a temple register, a family document, a debt note, a land agreement, a travel permit in some circumstances. The paper itself must be protected from damp, smoke, insects, and carelessness. In the headman's house, documents may be wrapped, stored, copied, or read aloud to those who cannot read them. A brush mark can travel farther than a shout. Paper also belongs to ordinary life. It may wrap goods, hold a letter, form a lantern shade, or become part of a child's learning. A scrap of paper from the town, printed with an image or characters, might be studied by someone who rarely sees such things. Literacy in the Edo period was not evenly distributed, but it was not absent from rural life. Some villagers could read enough for practical use, others relied on those who could. The presence of writing changed what a village could remember. Another detail is clothing. Work clothing in a mountain village is shaped by movement, weather, and repair. Sleeves may be tied back, legs wrapped. Straw rain capes used in wet weather. Hats protect from sun and rain. In winter, layers are added as means allow. Cloth is patched and repatched. Indigo-dyed fabrics may be common in many rural settings, though exact materials vary. Clothing shows labour. Knees wear thin, sleeves darken. A festival garment stored carefully carries a different feeling from field clothes. Footwear matters. Straw sandals wear out quickly on rough paths, which is why making them is not a quaint craft but a necessity. A person who walks to market, climbs the forest path and works in fields needs footwear that can be replaced from available materials. The rhythm of sandal making belongs to the rhythm of travel itself. Every pair is future distance. Sound is another hidden archive. The village has no engines, no recorded music, no electric hum, but it is not silent. There are tools, birds, insects, water, rain, bells, voices, animals, wood, fire, and wind. In spring, frogs dominate the evening. In summer, cicadas fill the trees. In autumn, dry leaves move along paths. In winter, snow removes many sounds and makes the remaining ones more distinct. A person born there knows the village partly by ear. Smell is equally important. Wet thatch after rain, smoke in hair and clothing, miso fermenting, pickles in storage, fresh cut straw, muddy fields, cedar after a branch breaks, persimmons drying, cold ash in the morning, a market town's mixture of animals, food, bodies and trade. The past can feel distant because we cannot smell it, but if we could, much of it would become immediate. Timekeeping is not modern clock time for every person in the same way. Bells, daylight, seasonal tasks and customary divisions of the day all help structure life. A farmer may not need a precise minute to begin work. The light, weather, and task decide. Yet official time and ritual time also exist. The village lives between natural cues and administrative demands. A deadline for tax or labour may be fixed, while the best day to plant depends on field and sky. Money circulates unevenly. A household may handle coins at market, pay or receive for goods, borrow, lend or owe. But much of life is also measured in grain, labour, favours, materials and obligations. A neighbour's help during thatching may be repaid later during harvest. A borrowed tool may require not money, but trust. A festival contribution may be more social than commercial. The village economy is not one system, but many overlapping forms of value. There is also the matter of status. Farmers were officially central to the productive order, yet not all farmers were equal. Some held more land, some less. Some were tenants, some labourers, some influential householders. Samurai were above commoners in the formal status system, but village headmen and wealthy peasants could hold significant local power. Merchants, artisans, priests, and outcast groups existed within broader society in ways that varied by place. A calm script need not explore every complexity, but it should avoid the idea that all villages shared the same life. Marriage and movement link villages together. A daughter from one valley may enter another household and bring different habits of cooking, speech, or festival memory. A son may be adopted into a family without an heir. A worker may leave seasonally and return with money, illness, songs, or stories. The village seems fixed, but people move through it in patterns shaped by family strategy and need. Childhood contains play as well as work. Children may chase each other along field edges, float leaves in a channel, collect insects, listen to stories, imitate festival music, or watch travellers with fascination. They also learn caution. Water can be dangerous, fire must be respected, tools can cut, forests can confuse, and adults' patience has limits. A child's world is smaller than an adult's, but more vivid in small things. Aging changes one's relationship to the village. The steep path that was once ordinary becomes difficult. The field that once belonged to the strength of the body becomes a place watched from a distance. An elder may measure decline not by years but by tasks surrendered, no longer carrying the largest bundle, no longer walking to market, no longer joining the full harvest day. Yet elders may gain authority through memory, ritual knowledge, childcare and presence. Death is part of the village, but for this restful telling we do not need to dwell on grimness. We can simply say that mourning, memorial rites, temple ties, and ancestor remembrance keep the dead within the moral geography of the household. A life ends, but the name remains in stories, records and offerings. The field is still worked, the hearth still burns. The village absorbs grief into its cycle, not because grief is small, but because work and remembrance continue side by side. Hospitality has its own rules. A traveller may be offered water, a place to rest, directions, or, in certain circumstances, lodging. But hospitality depends on trust, status, season, and resources. A poor household cannot feed every passer-by. A headman's house may carry greater expectation. A temple or inn near a road may receive people more formally. The road opens the village, but the village still guards itself. Cleanliness is practical and ritual. Sweeping the entry, washing rice or grains, keeping water jars clean, bathing when possible, purification before rituals, and cleaning before New Year all have different meanings. A house with an earthen work floor will never be clean in a modern polished sense, but it can be orderly, cared for, and ritually prepared when needed. Cleanliness is not the absence of earth. It is earth kept in its place. The village also has a night sky. Without modern light, stars above the ridge can appear startlingly clear when clouds are gone. The Milky Way may be visible. The moon matters for travel, mood, and beauty. A moonlit snowfield can brighten the valley enough to see roof lines. A moonless rainy night can make the world shrink to the doorway. People look up not as tourists but as inhabitants of darkness. All of these details, paper, sandals, smoke, coins, bells, patches, leaves, names and stars, help make the village feel lived in. They remind us that history is not only the structure of power or the cycle of crops, it is the texture of existence. It is how a cup feels in the hand, how a field smells after rain, how far a person can walk before the load becomes too heavy, how quiet a house becomes after the last child falls asleep. And so, when we imagine everyday life in an Edo-period mountain village, we're not escaping into fantasy. We are listening carefully to the ordinary. We're allowing the past to speak in low tones. We're admitting that a small valley can hold an entire world. One more way to understand the village is to imagine the things that remain still while people move around them. A stone at the edge of a path, a water jar beside the doorway, a beam over the hearth, a tree above the shrine steps. These objects do not speak, but they gather the gestures of many years. The stone at the path's edge has been passed by everyone, children carrying baskets, elders with walking sticks, young men with tools, women with water, travellers asking directions, officials following the headman, peddlers with packs, and mourners walking toward the temple. In summer, grass grows around it. In winter, snow covers it. When the snow melts, it returns unchanged, or seeming unchanged, though water has worked on it grain by grain. The water jar beside the doorway is filled and emptied so often that its importance disappears into use. Yet without it, the household falters. Water for cooking, washing, cleaning, tea, and small rituals depends on the journey from stream or well to house. The person who carries water carries the outside world indoors. The jar holds not only water but labour, cold hands, and the sound of the path. The beam over the hearth has watched generations sit beneath it. Smoke has darkened it until its original colour is nearly hidden. It has heard family arguments, marriage negotiations, children's questions, festival preparations, winter stories, and the quiet after bad news. If the house is repaired, the beam may remain. If the household changes, the beam witnesses without preference. The tree above the shrine steps marks seasons more visibly than any human record. Bud, leaf, shade, colour, bare branch, snow. Children who once played under it become adults who sweep its leaves. Adults become elders who sit nearby during festivals. Eventually new children play there, hearing the same warnings about not running on wet stones. The tree makes the village's continuity visible. A village is built from such continuities. Not everything lasts, of course. Roofs are replaced. Houses burn or are rebuilt. Families move, fail, rise, marry, divide, or disappear. But some patterns endure long enough to feel permanent. Morning smoke, water channels, field ridges, shrine visits, winter hearths. People live inside these patterns and add their own small changes. The Edo period itself eventually ended. Roads changed. New taxes, new schools, new technologies, New state structures and new markets altered rural life in the Meiji period and after. Some villages emptied in later centuries. Some houses were abandoned, preserved, moved to museums, or rebuilt for modern living. But the memory of the older village remains in architecture, tools, songs, documents, place names, festival forms, and the stories families keep. For a listener tonight, the village does not need to be recovered perfectly to be meaningful. It can be approached with respect, with careful language, and with attention to the difference between evidence and imagination. We can say, this is how a house might have felt, how a field might have sounded, how a road might have connected the valley to the world. We can avoid pretending certainty where the record is thin, while still allowing the past to become vivid. That is the balance of gentle history, to be accurate enough to honour real lives and imaginative enough to feel their weather. We have spent this long, quiet journey in a village that no single map can perfectly name. It has been a composite place, made from the historical patterns of Edo-period rural life and the particular atmosphere of mountain Japan. Terraced fields, forest paths, shared water, wooden houses, village offices, taxes, shrines, temples, side work, seasonal food, and the slow turning of the year. It would not be honest to call such a life easy. The labour was real, the cold was real, the weight of taxes, weather, illness, inequality and obligation was real. A mountain village could be beautiful and difficult at the same time. The people who lived there were not figures in a peaceful painting. They were practical, tired, hopeful, worried, skillful, observant, and human. But it would also be incomplete to describe the village only through hardship. There was warmth by the hearth. There were children learning the path to the stream. There were fields shining with reflected clouds. There were persimmons drying beneath the eaves, festival lanterns under cedar trees, mushrooms found after rain, straw twisted by firelight, and the sound of a bell fading into snow. The Edo world beyond the mountains was wide. Castle towns, highways, markets, officials, merchants, books, prints, temples, theatres, and ships. Yet the village had its own depth. A person could live an entire life within the circle of these mountains and still know many worlds: the world of water, the world of crops, the world of ancestors, the world of neighbours, the world of weather, the world of memory, the world inside the house after dark. Perhaps that is why everyday history can feel so restful. It reminds us that most of human life has not been made of great announcements. It has been made of mornings and evenings, of carrying water, of preparing food, of waiting for rain to stop, of teaching a child how to tie a bundle, of looking up from work and noticing that the season has changed. Now imagine the village one last time in winter. Snow has fallen through the evening and now rests on the roofs, fields, bridge and shrine steps. The road beyond the village is hidden. The forest is still. Smoke rises from one or two houses and disappears into the dark. Inside a farmhouse, the last ember is covered in ash so it may live until morning. Bowls are put away. Bedding is warm. The household sleeps. The stream continues under a thin edge of ice. The mountains stand around the valley, patient and silent. No one needs to go to the fields now. No meeting needs to be held. No path needs to be climbed until morning. For a few hours, even a village built on labour can rest. And so can you. Let the roofs soften under snow. Let the lanterns go out one by one. Let the hearth settle into a quiet glow. Let the mountain path fade into darkness. The village will still be there in the morning, with its water, smoke, fields, forest, and slow returning light. For now, there is nothing more that needs to be done. Good night.
Thank you for watching Something About Sleep. Since you're clearly still awake, why don't you click on the next video and we'll see you there.